Hello and welcome. Today we're going to dive into this really simple but honestly pretty profound story. It's all about where we get our sense of worth and how just one little change in our thinking can shift, well, everything.
Just think about that for a second. A crown made of paper. I mean, what a perfect way to describe that fragile feeling we've all had, right? That sense of self that kind of crumbles unless other people are propping it up. So let's find out how this king made his big discovery. So our story kicks off with a king who, despite having the title, the throne, the whole deal, he felt incredibly small and insecure. His peace of mind was always on shaky ground.
He would just spend his days watching everyone, kind of measuring every little gesture, every word they said. And it was exhausting, this constant vigilance. But it all came from this one single, painful thought that just played on a loop in his head.
That's it. That one little sentence was the source of all his misery. And it sounds pretty reasonable, doesn't it? I mean, he is the king. But this expectation, it became his own personal torturer.
So every single time reality didn't line up with that thought, he felt personally attacked, diminished. His own happiness wasn't even in his own hands anymore. It was basically held hostage by what his servants did or didn't do. He'd become a slave to his own idea of how things should be.
Well, the king's life completely changed when a wise man came to visit. And this guy didn't offer advice or platitudes. Instead, he offered a method, a way to really investigate that painful thought. It was a simple process, just 4 questions.
So here they are, the 4 questions. Now, to the first one, is it true? The king's answer was instant. Yes, of course it's true. But that second question, that's the one that made him pause. Can you absolutely know that it's true? Can you absolutely know that someone should respect you? Can you really get inside someone else's head and command their feelings? And he realized, no, he couldn't. And that little crack of doubt opened up a whole new way of seeing things.
And just look at this. The contrast is so stark. On the left side, when he's believing the thought they should respect me, he's a victim. He feels that whip on his back, constantly under attack. But over on the right, without that thought, he's just a man sitting peacefully on his throne. A bow isn't a judgment on his worth anymore. It's just a physical movement. The situation itself never changed. Only his thought about it did. But the process doesn't stop there. The next step is really where the magic happens, the alchemy of it all. It's a practice called the turnaround. So the whole idea here is to take that original statement, they should respect me, and just kind of play with it, flip it around, turn it into its opposites, and see if those new sentences might be just as true or maybe even truer. Let's see how this worked for our king.
Okay, so this right here, this was the king's path to freedom. He tried out 3 different turnarounds. First, he pointed the thought back at himself. I should respect myself. Then he turned it toward the other person. I should respect my servants. And finally, he went to the complete opposite. They should not respect me. And each one of these revealed something amazing.
With that first turnaround, I should respect myself, it was like a light bulb went off. He saw that while he was so busy demanding respect from everyone else, he was constantly beating himself up inside, telling himself he wasn't good enough. The disrespect he was seeing out there, it was just a mirror for what was happening inside.
And that second turnaround, I should respect my servants, was just as powerful. It totally flipped the script. He went from being this needy person demanding something to an empowered person who could give something. Respect was no longer this thing he had to chase after. It was something he could actually create and give away freely.
Now, the big idea behind this whole entire process really boils down to something super simple, but also kind of radical. It's all about where we put our attention. It's about understanding that there are 3 distinct areas of life, or as some call it, business.
So you've got my business, which is the only thing I can actually control. My own thoughts, my own actions. Then there's your business, what you think, what you feel, what you do. And finally, there's reality's business, the stuff nobody controls, like the weather, or, the simple fact that a servant just happened to bow imperfectly.
And that was the king's whole problem right there in a nutshell. His suffering came from one simple mistake. He was mentally living in his servant's business, trying to control what they thought and felt about him. The second he brought his focus back to his own business, how he could be respectful to himself and to others, that's when he found his peace.
So really, the king's story is just a big metaphor for our own lives, isn't it? It's an invitation for us to look at where we might be waiting around for the world to give us something that we've had the power to give ourselves this whole time.
Whether it's respect or appreciation or love or understanding, What if the source was never out there to begin with? What if it's been right here, inside of you all along? That's a powerful question to just sit with for a bit. Thanks for joining me for this one.